Hello, you're so much welcome to this session. And today we want to look at menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle we see setting in at age of 12 in female. Between age of 12, but these days even 8 is starting because of the lifestyle changes in it. So today we want to see menstrual cycle, which starts at the age of 12 in a female up to the age of 49 or sometimes 45, depending when the menopause sets in. And this menstrual cycle, which ladies experience every month, it takes 28 days, but can differ slightly. But it takes 28 days. And this cycle, which we are calling menstrual cycle, it occurs in two phases. So if we have menstrual cycle, we are seeing it divided into two, whereby one is ovarian cycle. Ovarian cycle is talking about changes that occur in the ovary. Then also we have uterine cycle, whereby this uterine cycle, they are the changes that are occurring within the uterus, the endometrium specifically, how the endometrium is changing together with the hormonal changes. So we shall see ovarian cycle occurring in the ovary, how we are seeing the changes in the primordial germ cells, the way they grow in response to hormones produced by the anterior pituitary. And then we shall see also the uterus, how the endometrium keeps on changing. As we know that endometrium is made up of majorly two layers, that is stratum bassaris, which does not participate in the anchor. Then the functionalis layer is the one that keeps shedding every month. So during menses, we see the functionalis layer being shed. So as we begin, we want to begin with, so as we are moving on, we shall see that ovarian cycle together with uterine cycle, they coincide, whereby under ovarian cycle, we are going to see phases like follicular phase, then we shall see ovulatory peak or ovulatory phase and luteal phase. Luteal phase is where we are forming the corpus luteum. Whereas in the uterus, we are going to see changes like menstrual phase, whereby you can call it menstrual or flow phase. This one takes like 4 days. Then we shall follow with the proliferative phase. Then later we shall see, after ovulation, we shall see secretory phase. So these stages, we shall see that in the uterus, the menstrual phase and the proliferative phase coincides with the follicular phase. So we are saying that menstrual phase, that is during shedding of the bassaris of the stratum functionalis, and the proliferation coincides with the follicular phase, which takes between 1 to 13 days. Then we see the ovulatory peak occurring at day 14, and then we shall see, so follicular phase is combining both menstrual and proliferative phase. Whereas there is ovulatory peak, then after ovulatory peak we shall see luteal phase of the ovarian cycle coinciding or matching with the secretory phase of the endometrium. So that's how we are going to discuss them in two phases. So we are going to see phase number 1. If we want to talk about ovarian cycle, it begins with phase number 1, and this phase is what we know as follicular. Follicular phase, and we have seen that this follicular phase, it starts from day 1 up to day 13. And we have seen that in the ovary, in the uterus, it coincides with menstrual plus proliferative. proliferative, that is in the uterus. And what triggers this follicular phase to start is low levels of estrogen and progesterone. That when there is low levels of estrogen and low levels of progesterone, we see them triggering the anterior pituitary gland. That low levels of estrogen, low levels of progesterone in the blood is detected by the hypothalamus, and this hypothalamus goes and tells the anterior pituitary gland to start releasing FSH and AFH. So we see the anterior, these ones triggering the hypothalamus to release gonadotropin releasing hormone, which goes to the anterior pituitary gland to trigger it to secrete follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. That is how it starts. After producing follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, we know that this follicle stimulating hormone produced goes to the ovary. It goes to the ovary and it starts stimulating these primordial germ cells to start maturing. So it is the one that stimulates the growth, stimulates the growth of multiple primordial germ cells. So it does not stimulate the growth of one. We see at the beginning of the cycle, follicle stimulating hormone that is released in response to low levels of estrogen and progesterone, it triggers multiple germ cells. You see they are four, it is not one. Sometimes it can even trigger more than 8 at once. And we shall see the reason why it triggers more than one, multiple. That's why we are calling it growth of multiple primordial germ cells growing. As they are growing, now the function of luteinizing hormone is that as these primordial germ cells are growing to the primary germ cell, then to the secondary Graafian follicle, which is the dominant one, we see growth of layers such as zona pellucida and corona radiata. And as zona pellucida appears on the primary oocyte, or what we call the primary germ cell, we see that this luteinizing hormone attaches on the zona pellucida and triggers it to start synthesizing estrogen hormone. And this estrogen hormone produced during menstrual cycle is estradiol 2. E2 is the one that we measure. So we see production of estrogen hormone is being triggered by luteinizing hormone. And after production of this estrogen hormone is the one that is responsible for repair of endometrium. Repair of the endometrium. Remember, during flow phase, during menstrual phase, we have been shedding off all the layer. So we have lost it. We see ourselves losing this layer during flow phase. It is lost. So after being lost, by day 4, we expect you to have finished the menses, or maximum day 5. So by day 4, we are seeing loss of the endometrium, that is functionalis layer. And after being lost, we need someone to come and repair before we implant or before we expect for another egg coming in the end of the month. So what is doing the repair is the estrogen hormone. So we see the major function of estrogen hormone, and this is the reason why we are triggering production of multiple germ cells, so that these multiple germ cells can produce enough estrogen to repair the endometrium. Because one is not able to produce enough estrogen to repair the endometrium or the shed walls of the functionalis layer. So that is the reason why we trigger multiple germ cells. But we shall see that by day 7, by day 7, by 7th day, we are going to see the emergence of the dominant follicle. So we are saying by day 7, these multiple germ cells go in a meeting and start voting to see who is going this month. And when they are in the meeting, we are seeing these multiple germ cells. Among themselves, they choose one to go because all of them cannot go. We know that ovary produces one oocyte every month. So by day 7, they go in a meeting, like by day 6 at night, then they choose who is going, who is having potential to go this month. And by day 7, we have emergence of dominant follicle. Dominant follicle emerges, and this dominant follicle continues to produce estrogen. We see it continuing to produce E2, what we call estradiol 2, which is produced during menstrual cycle. And this estrogen continues to repair the endometrium, continues to repair the endometrium. And as it's continuing to repair the endometrium, by the time we are going from day 8 to day 12, this dominant follicle, which formed these primary follicles, have produced a secondary dominant follicle, and this follicle continues to draw layers and even we see the antrum has come in, a fluid-filled antrum together with the corona radiata and zona pellucida. And these guys, these layers, when they are formed by the dominant follicle, we see there is increased production of estrogen. Estrogen goes high, and abnormal levels or higher levels of estrogen, which we are seeing on this graph, at the beginning it was low, and its low levels led to the production. But by day, between day 8 and day 12, we see it going at the peak. And these abnormal high levels of estrogen hormone exert a positive feedback. They are the one that are going to cause that high or increase in estrogen hormone produced by the dominant follicle. They're going to trigger the anterior pituitary gland. It triggers the anterior pituitary gland to produce luteinizing hormone surge. It triggers it to produce luteinizing hormone surge. Luteinizing hormone surge. So this luteinizing hormone surge by day 13, on the 13th day, we see that a high increase in estrogen by day 10 to 12 is going to trigger the anterior pituitary gland. First of all, high levels of estrogen exerts a negative feedback on follicle stimulating hormone, but it exerts a positive feedback on luteinizing hormone, whereby the anterior pituitary gland releases a luteinizing hormone surge. Luteinizing hormone surge means abnormal high amounts of luteinizing hormone. And we are going to see these luteinizing hormone coming at once. They come as an electric shock. Then they hit the ovary, causing the ovary, together with the Galaphian follicle, to rupture to release the secondary oocyte. And that is what we call ovulation. So we are going to see that this luteinizing hormone surge is the one that causes rupture of the ovary together with the Galaphian follicle. Galaphian follicle, and when they rupture, this process is what we call ovulation. And this ovulation is the one that occurs at day 14. So this is how the ovulatory phase comes in. So this one explains ovulatory phase. Here we were explaining ovulatory phase. This one you can call it, because we had follicular phase. Now the second one is ovulatory. And we have said that follicular phase stops on the maturation of the Galaphian follicle, producing high levels of estrogen, which continue to repair the endometrium. But we say by day 12 to day 13, we are seeing the high increase in estrogen levels, triggering the anterior pituitary gland to release a surge of luteinizing hormone. And it is this luteinizing hormone that comes and hits the ovary together with the Graafian follicle, leading to the release of the secondary oocyte. So we are seeing that a luteinizing hormone surge is the one that is coming at day 14, and it is hitting this ovary together with the Graafian follicle to release the secondary oocyte. So this is the secondary oocyte which is ready to be fertilized. Released at day 14, where is the ovulatory peak, that is day 14. And this is what we call the ovulatory phase. Then from the ovulatory phase, we go to the third phase. This third phase is known as luteal phase. We call it luteal phase. Luteal phase is also triggered by a luteinizing hormone surge, whereby this luteinizing hormone surge, the luteinizing hormone surge, apart from causing ovulation, it also facilitates the growth of the corpus luteum. It's the one that leads to formation of corpus luteum. So after the ovary has ruptured to release the egg, which we call the secondary oocyte, it forms corpus luteum. And so when the scar where the Graafian follicle was occupying, the luteinizing hormone surge comes and cements it and makes sure it forms corpus luteum. And this corpus luteum is the one that takes over the role of producing estrogen. It is the one that continues to produce estrogen hormone, and here we see also emergence of progesterone. So progesterone and estrogen, they are being produced by the corpus luteum after ovulation, and they are being facilitated by luteinizing hormone. Without luteinizing hormone, corpus luteum cannot produce estrogen and progesterone. So it is the role of luteinizing hormone. After causing ovulation, it goes ahead and facilitates the corpus luteum to form, and after being formed, it also causes it to continue producing estrogen hormone and progesterone hormone. And what is the role of progesterone hormone during luteal phase? We are seeing this luteal phase coinciding with the secretory phase in the endometrium. So the role of these two hormones is to increase the secretion or the secretory effect of the stratum functionalis. That as much as we are seeing estrogen triggering the causing repair of the endometrium, in this phase we are going to see that estrogen, which we are calling E2, continues to increase the vascularity. Increases the vascularity of the endometrium, whereby we see increase in the blood vessels in regard for they are expecting for implantation. Because before the egg is implanted after fertilization, we need more blood supply to this implanted fertilized egg, which can grow into the embryo. So that we see the increased vascularity of the endometrium being facilitated by estrogen. Then it is progesterone, so it increases vascularity, that is blood supply. It increases the secretory effect, whereby it forms more glands. It facilitates formation of glands that will secrete all necessary requirements for the implantation. Then the progesterone which is produced is responsible for the maintenance. It is the one that maintains the endometrium. You see, whenever you have a builder, there must be someone, after the builder has built the house, we need someone to always come and take care of the house, to make sure he maintains what has been put in place. So in this case, the estrogen is the builder. He has built the endometrium, the functionality layer. He has made sure there is blood supply. He has made sure there is water. There is all nutrients required for the implantation. Now here comes the maintainer, the one that is making sure whatever is put in place is guarded jealously, and that is progesterone. Is the one that maintains the endometrium and is the one that even always maintains pregnancy the whole 9 months. Without progesterone, you get miscarriage, what we call abortion. And according to our graph, we are seeing progesterone low in follicular phase, then it is going high in the luteal phase. Why? Because here we have formed the corpus luteum in the presence of luteinizing hormone, which is facilitating the production. And we see estrogen, this is estrogen, this is progesterone, and progesterone is always higher than estrogen during the luteal phase. So this is estrogen, which is always lower than the progesterone. So estrogen increasing the secretory effect by increasing the vascularity and blood supply, then progesterone is maintained. But by day, what happens is that towards day 21, towards day 21, day 20 to day 21, whenever there is, when the pregnancy does, when fertilization does not occur, when fertilization does not occur, we put it here. So by day 21, if fertilization does not occur, if fertilization fails to occur, we are going to see these high levels, because what facilitates corpus luteum is luteinizing hormone. And by day 21, we see low levels of luteinizing hormone and low levels of FSH, as we are seeing it here on the graph. We are seeing luteinizing hormone, we are seeing follicle stimulating, this is luteinizing hormone, this is the follicle stimulating hormone. They are low. So low levels of follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone, and we have seen luteinizing hormone is the one that maintains corpus luteum. So by day 21, in case fertilization does not occur to bring the placenta, what happens, there is reduced levels of luteinizing hormone. And when luteinizing hormone reduces, the corpus luteum regresses. Corpus luteum regresses to form corpus albicans. And this corpus albicans loses its endocrinological role. We see the corpus luteum, which we are having very prominent. So this is my corpus luteum, which was prominent. By day 21, it regresses and loses its functionality, meaning we can no longer produce estrogen and progesterone. So regression of corpus luteum to form corpus albicans results into reduced levels of estrogen and progesterone. And that's why we are seeing that by day 22 to day 26, we are seeing progesterone and estrogen reducing drastically. Why? Because there was no LH to continue supporting the growth of the corpus luteum. But if fertilization occurs, we see placenta taking up the role of producing luteinizing hormone. So corpus luteum continues to support as placenta comes in. to continue supporting. But if fertilization occurs before the placenta comes in, there is HCG. So when fertilization occurs, there is production of HCG, what we call human chorionic gonadotropin. And it is this HCG that acts as luteinizing hormone after fertilization. And that's why we see continuity of production of progesterone and estrogen after fertilization. Because after fertilization, the fertilized embryo begin producing HCG before placenta is formed by the second week, by the first month. So HCG takes up the role of luteinizing. But if fertilization does not occur, no HCG and no luteinizing hormone, it causes the corpus luteum to regress, form corpus albicans, and when corpus albicans forms, it no longer produces E2 and progesterone. And it is low levels of progesterone and E2 that are going to exert a negative feedback. Remember, it is the one that is triggered in follicular phase. So the moment we start low levels of estrogen and progesterone, they are going to exert a negative feedback by triggering the hypothalamus to release gonadotropin releasing hormone, which is going to stimulate the anterior to produce FSH and LH. And this one will start the cycle of, this one occurs at day 28, whereby low levels of estrogen and low levels of progesterone begins another menstruation, another menstrual phase. Because the moment we have no estrogen, the moment we have no progesterone, the endometrium begins shedding. And that one marks another cycle. So we see the cycle ending here, and when low levels of progesterone and estrogen comes in, another mens begins. So this is what we are talking about, menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle. Thank you for always joining us. We have been together from the beginning. And I always remind you to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, always hit the like button and always share your comments. So we have seen in summary that this menstrual cycle occurs in ladies between 12 to 49 years. And we have seen it occurs in two cycles, that is ovarian, changes that occur in the ovary and changes that occur in the endometrium. And we have seen the phases, whereby follicular phase coincides with the menstrual phase and proliferative phase, which begins from day 1 up to day 30. And we have seen what triggers it, that low levels of estrogen and progesterone are the one that trigger production of FSH and LH. We have seen FSH triggering the production or maturation of the multiple germ cells, and the LH triggering the zona pellucida of the growing germ cells to produce estrogen, which repairs the endometrium. And we have seen by day 7 that they go in a meeting and they choose who is going to go. And when this dominant follicle is chosen, it produces a hormone known as inhibin. Apart from estrogen, it also produces inhibin. And it is this inhibin hormone that prevents these other remaining primary oocytes not to continue growing. So inhibin exerts a negative effect by stopping others from growing so that the dominant continues. And also this inhibin inhibits also production of FSH. So this inhibin is the one that causes the anterior pituitary gland to stop producing FSH. Then we have seen that this dominant follicle, when it comes in, it produces abnormal levels of estrogen, which exerts a positive feedback mechanism. This one we called it positive feedback. Why positive feedback? Is that high levels of estrogen, instead of inhibiting, it is causing further production of luteinizing hormone surge, which was marking the ovulatory phase, whereby this luteinizing hormone surge comes and causes the rupture of the ovary and the Galaphian follicle, and is to release the secondary oocyte, and this process is what we call ovulation, occurring at day 14. Then luteal phase, which we have seen that after rupture, the luteinizing hormone supports the growth of the corpus luteum, which produces estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen continues to repair and increasing the vascularity and blood supply of the endometrium, whereas progesterone is maintaining. But we have seen if fertilization does not occur by day 20, corpus luteum regresses due to lack of luteinizing hormone. Because if fertilization had occurred, we would see HCG coming in to support corpus luteum. But because there is no fertilization, no HCG, corpus luteum regresses, and when it regresses, it leads to low levels of progesterone and estrogen, leading to another menstrual cycle. That is what we can talk about. But in summary, there is always other discussions about safe days and which is not safe. If I can draw in summary my chart here, and this is day 14, this is day 1, this is day 4, where here there is it is flow phase, and then we have day 9, we are going to have day 20. Let me even put day 21, then this is day 28. So between day 1 and day 4, this is the lady is in menses. So we don't expect her to have sex during, because even it is an abomination. But between after day 4, day 5 to day 9, these we call them semi-safe days. These are semi-safe days. This one you can play sex without protection, and literally you might not get pregnant. But in the case of early ovulation, you might get pregnant, because whenever the sperms are released, they wait for 2 to 3 days as they are waiting for the egg to come in. That's why we are not saying it continues up to day 12 or day 13. We are giving an allowance whereby when you ejaculate sperms, they wait for 3 days. So whenever you have sex at day 12 and the egg is released at day 14, you might get pregnant. So the semi-safe days is between 5 to 9 days. There you can give a chance that you might play sex and you don't get pregnant. That is what we can talk about. But between day 9 and day 21, these are fertile days. Whenever you want a child, and sometimes we normally say whenever you want a boy child, you can play sex at day 13 at midnight. There is very much chances of producing a boy, because the Y chromosome of which produces male is always gets destroyed faster. So when you have sex at 13th day midnight, we are sure that high chances of producing a baby boy, because of the Y chromosome dying faster than the X chromosome. So we are seeing day 9 to day 21, these are fertile days. So whenever you are married and you want to get pregnant, always target these days. These are fertile days. You can easily get pregnant. Then above 20, from 21 to 28, these ones we call them safe. These ones are very safe, that even you can play sex 5 times and you don't get pregnant in a day. Because here we see the egg which was released at the 14th day has already been incorporated, the body has used it, it is no longer there. Why we are saying to up to date, sometimes some books say up to day 19, but we are giving an allowance, because from day 15 to day 19, 3 days also the egg waits in the fallopian tube. After 4 days, 3 to 4 days, it is used by the body. It is no more. So by day 20 to 28, that last week, you can play sex, and you are not expecting to get pregnancy. That is what we call safe days. These ones are more safe than these from 5 to 9. Because in the case of early ovulation, you might ejaculate and the sperms might wait for 2 days, for 3 days, and you might become pregnant. So the very safe days is between 21 to 28, whereby we know there is no egg, because the egg disappeared by the 19th day. So by 21 to 28, we are sure you cannot get pregnant. And this is what I can explain about the menstrual cycle. Thank you so much for listening until the end. Always be there. God bless.